tied. The honourable member for Scarborough Southwest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for her speech, and in particular the response to the Conservative member. It's nice to see that they seem to finally be remembering that there is indeed a manufacturing sector in Canada, and that for many years it was one of the leaders of our economy, and certainly could be again with the right kinds of decisions made. But unfortunately, this government chose to pick one resource, one part of this country, one part of our economy, to the exclusion of everything else, putting all our economic eggs in the one basket, Mr. Speaker, in a boom or bust basket to boot. Now, I also wanted to ask, and I want to thank her for bringing up U.S. Steel and manufacturing in her riding, and changes that need to be made at the Investment Act would certainly improve what happened there. Now, she talked about confidence and certainty, and of course, business, like Canadians, need to have confidence and they need to have certainty in order to make investments, in order to make the right decisions that is in fact going to bring good-paying jobs to Canada, Mr. Speaker. Now, it's interesting that we're dealing with liabilities now when the actual regulation of pipelines and the safety and security of them is a complete and total mess. This government went and eviscerated the Navigable Waters Act, Mr. Speaker, which actually prevented many improvements from happening when pipelines or future pipelines are going to cross rivers and streams and bodies of water, Mr. Speaker, in some cases not even requiring stop valves on either side of the river. So is this bill perhaps not putting the cart before the horse a little bit, where we actually need to fix the regulations so that we can have certainty before we actually can figure out what kind of problems they're going to have? And maybe the member could comment on any of the great number of things I just brought up.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And boy, I really do have a plethora of things that I could be commenting on. Let me start with a point that I perhaps didn't get to highlight as much in my speech as I'd wanted to. One of the things that's obviously true in Canada is that much of our pipeline infrastructure is in fact aging. It's one of the reasons why Canadians are so concerned about the possibility of spills. And the Americans are actually way ahead of us on that. Well, at least way ahead of us in terms of recognizing that there may be a problem. Members in this House may be aware that there's been a second spill in Montana. This spill was just near the city of Glendive, Montana, and over 40,000 gallons spilled and contaminated downstream water supplies. 40,000 gallons. Now, relatively speaking, I guess that was the minor spill of the two that happened in Montana. But when the local senator was asked about that, who's a Montana Democrat, he told the media more frequent inspections by regulators are needed and older pipelines should face stricter safety standards. Here in Canada, we're going the exact opposite way.
Shame.
As I said, in 2011, it was pointed out to this government that we need greater oversight, that we need stricter regulations. And what's the government doing? As my colleague from Scarborough said, they're gutting regulations. They've gutted the Navigable Waters Act. No wonder Canadians are so concerned about pipeline safety in our country. I don't often say this, but in this instance, we ought to be taking a page out of the book south of the border, where they're actually taking environmental damages and the potential for environmental damages much, much more seriously than we are here in Canada. And I think Canadians deserve that kind of certainty when it comes to potential impacts on the environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.